Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I am a Western astrologer and twin flame channel, and this is a video about the new moon in Sagittarius taking place on December 1st at 1:21 a.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Please check a time zone converter for your local time. This will be the update for the Lightworker Collective. Couple quick announcements. December is almost sold out for readings if you'd like to talk with me before the end of the year. Definitely book now if you are guided to. Otherwise, we'll be talking in January. There is a holiday sales event that I'm doing going on where you have the opportunity to book a reading with me for 30% off, which I never do. And it's for back-to-back Fridays. Last Friday was parent-child readings for those of you who booked. Really looking forward to speaking with you so you can better understand your relationship with your child on Friday the 29th. So that's this Friday of the week that this new moon update is released. You'll be able to save 30% on the 1 hour personal reading. So if you've been wanting to do that 1 hour personal reading, you can get access to that savings code on Friday. Friday, December 6th will be the couples reading. And so if you want to do the 90-minute, two people coming together, having a chat about their charts and the astrology and how to work more harmoniously together and what's ahead in store for both of you in 2025, save your money, book for the couples reading on Friday, December 6th. On Friday, the 13th, there will be a 30% savings on the 1 hour twin flame, previously twin flame, now relationship reading. So if you'd like to book that, you can do that. That's for one person, not for two people. So that's 60 minutes. We can talk about your chart, the other person's chart, and the chart of what I call the union. It's the day the two of you met. And the last reading available will be Friday the 20th. It is another 90-minute reading opportunity, and that is for a parent who wants to look at two children's chart, or if you'd like to look at your child and the other parent's chart. That 90-minute reading will allow us to deep dive on the family dynamics and how everyone can work more harmoniously together. And the 30% off codes will be in the community section. They are available for 24 hours only. They are released at midnight and then they close at midnight 24 hours later. But if you want a head start and the best pick at calendar days and time, most availability, jump on the private list. I am releasing the codes to the private list early, 24 hours early. So they have a full 48 hours. The YouTube community only gets 24. Link to get on the private list is below this video. Last announcement, I'm going to be live on Thursday, December 6th, discussing the major transits of 2025 for love and money. So if you'd like to join me live here on YouTube, just mark your calendar. It'll be on at 4 o'clock Eastern that day. And I'll be joined by my Star Club community for those for live Q&A, and there'll be an opportunity to join Star Club down the road in 2025. It is now closed for enrollment, but the waitlist link is below this video. Let's get into the Sagittarius New Moon. Here we go. We have this Sagittarius New Moon here at the 9th degree of Sagittarius, and we have an opposition from Jupiter here in Gemini. It is very loose. It is almost to the point where we as astrologers would say that's not even an opposition anymore, but it's close enough to still be considered one. We also see a square to Saturn over here, conjunct Nessus. This formulates a bit of a T-square, which can open up a lot of tension for us collectively. So I'm going to talk about what that means. We also see a loose trine to Chiron and Aries here, which is a bit helpful. That energy can be supportive for us. We also see a trine as well to Mars there inside of Leo, preparing to go retrograde. It's at that last degree. Mars is going to make it to the 6th degree of Leo before we have a Mars retrograde. So This brings some really interesting energy. In a moment, I'm going to talk about the signs that will feel this most. And if you listen to the end, I will also be sharing with you my first look at the upcoming full moon 2 weeks out from here. So we'll know how the energy flows. But this new moon with its opposition to Jupiter, let's just start there with that. Bringing in some very interesting energy because with Jupiter in Gemini and in retrograde motion, Jupiter's retrograde, Jupiter opposite the full moon, this can make it very easy to get carried away. Sorry, the new moon. Be a little loose with some boundaries. Some of the shadow side of Gemini energy can really show itself with more ease under this influence. So things like gossip or distraction or exaggeration, embellishment, or straight up non-truths. Lots of talking with very little thoughtfulness can unfold here. It is also easy with this energy to forget plans or commitments or mix up timing, especially with Mercury retrograde at this time. We'll talk more about Mercury retrograde in a moment. But know that this opposition from Jupiter to the new moon is what's going to really kind of loosen, I would say, what we call the mind or loosen the lips, so to speak. So there's some interesting energies with that. Pay attention to the things you're saying. I would say as much as you can, stay intentional to really only say the things you mean. But also understand that because not everyone is as conscious as you or listening to this caveat before we get full on into this energy, know that there's a real potential that you may also hear some things from other people that they don't mean. We see a square here to Saturn conjunct Nessus and Pisces from the new moon to that Jupiter retrograde energy in Gemini. This balances out some of the Jupiterian energy that I just mentioned, and it brings a more balanced communication and interaction mentally to the table for people because Saturn is a more sobering energy. Saturn also really places a demand on all of us for congruence and integrity and alignment. And so, where Saturn wants to restrict, Jupiter wants to expand. They're both speaking to this new moon, and together they create a little bit more balance. And this will allow us to access utilizing Jupiter opposite the new moon's energy and the light. And that means that we can take calculated risks, move forward step by step. We can expand without exploding with this. So there is balance available if we're willing to lean into it. But as I've mentioned in other lunar updates, our friend Nessus is also a part, sorry, Neptune is part of the conversation. And there's Neptune there in Pisces as well. But Neptune's also speaking to the moon. It is speaking to Jupiter. Together, Neptune and Jupiter are like the captain and star players of Team No Limits and aspects of tension. The two of them love to get carried away. They don't really have an off switch. So thank goodness for Saturn here, who's got his, foot on the brake a little bit and saying, hey, guys, maybe we don't need to, fly completely off the handle with our thoughts or our words. Maybe we can temper this just a little bit. Neptune is influencing Jupiter, like I mentioned, but what's happening here, and I've talked about this a lot on my channel, is that we have what's called a T-square. And so T-squares mean that there's occupation in 3 of 4 signs of a particular mode. The modes are the way we respond to life. And so the mode that does not have any planetary occupation is Virgo in these degrees. There's nothing in these degrees of Virgo. We, as a luminary body, ourselves, we have the opportunity to lean into the Virgoan energy, and that will really allow this energy to balance so that we're not dominated by the stars, but instead we're driving their influence on our lives. If we occupy Virgo energy, this allows us to step into discernment, decision making, paying attention to the details in what's said and what's not said, tracking our own mental patterning. Are we letting ourselves get too carried away with doubt or negativity or fear, or hyper rationalizing somebody else's behavior, trying to do their work for them instead of just being in communication, right? This Virgo energy, if we can step into that, it will allow us to be, it'll ameliorate some of the Neptune, Jupiter kind of getting carried away, and the Saturn influence, which we're going to talk about in a moment, on both Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, which can have us like really withdrawn and overthinking. We step into this Virgoan energy for ourselves, it allows us access to choices, clearer communication. It also allows us access to decisions that allow us to move incrementally instead of feeling like everything needs to be done all at once. It also gives us an opportunity to use Neptune in the light, which is more about accessing imagination and intuition in this circumstance to strategize solutions that may have been unavailable outside of this configuration. There's a lot of creativity here. It's going to be really a useful time for artists and entrepreneurs, and those are those who are creatively inclined. Lots of great ideas can come through this configuration, but you have to be willing to lean into the Virgoan energy and really look at, okay, what decisions can I make? What, there's discernment in here. What do I need to be discerning about? Okay. There's a loose trine to Chiron and Aries, as I mentioned, for this new moon. Let's point that out. So here's Chiron conjunct Eris there in Aries. This is an empowering energy because Eris specifically, and that's this one right here. If you've never heard of her, she's an asteroid, moves crazy slow. The Eris energy is deeply focused on where she's been disenfranchised, who's not paying attention to her, where she's been left out of the conversation. She's the energy of righteous riot and righteous rage, and she has a place because there are times when our back is against the wall and we need to take action. In conjunction with Chiron, as she has been all this year, this really empowers our chironic energy through the sign of Aries, the sign of the self, action, ambition, to take a look at where we have agreed with self, like disempowerment for ourselves, a real inability to include ourself, Aries energy, at the table of life. And so the combination in communication with this new moon, this is going to be allowing us to step into greater wisdom, step into the light side of Chiron and really own a lot of our truth. You may be noticing as we close out the year that your New Year's resolution energy is already upon you, and you're feeling the sense of, I got to do things differently. Maybe you're thinking, I got to do the holidays differently with family, or I got to do something different in terms of work, right? I got to switch this up to make room for myself at life's table. Again, that's Chiron and Aries and the light working overtime this year to really help us all with greater self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-understanding, and really check and see where we have excluded ourselves because of something somebody else did or our past or certain pain we've been through. That Eris Chiron conjunction, especially at this new moon, is saying no. You actually can and have faith, hope, optimism in yourself, all the light side of Sagittarius. You can believe in yourself, light side of Sagittarius. So, really beautiful energy here. allowing us to get Chiron, the third part of the Chironic journey, which is about healing and teaching. Most people really only associate Chiron with the wounding, but that was the beginning of the narrative, the rejection and the abandonment. The end of the narrative, how he lost his life, was a moment. The majority of how Chiron spent his life was as a teacher and a healer. We only focus on the negative, then that's all we get. If we can focus on Chiron's light, then we have access to that. And this new moon really gives us that option to step into the healing, the self-awareness. It gives us that option to step into the teaching. You may even find that you're playing this role in your interpersonal dynamics, the coach, the mentor, the healer, the wise one, the guide as we move into this last month of 2024. You may even find you're becoming that person to yourself, where you finally have stepped into a season where you are, because this new moon is in a communication sign, a thought and mind sign, you're checking your own thoughts, your own mind, your own communication with yourself, and not letting yourself any longer be your own enemy. We already have enough kind of pushback or experiences in the world giving us reasons why we can't be, do, or have something. This Eris Chiron conjunction in Aries, speaking to this new moon by trine, is really inviting you to start having a different conversation with yourself and have your own back. We do see a trine as well to Mars in Leo. Martian energy is always just about movement in neutrality. Sure, in the shadow, of course, we get aggression, we get warlike energy, we can get hastiness, but Mars in the light is ambition. It is taking action toward goals. It's outward projective energy. It's this energy of let's move forward. And so we have a trine to that new moon there. And since Mars is about to go retrograde, I want you to think back in your life to what's been happening between October 5th and now. That was when Mars entered the retrograde zone. Now, the closer we get to December 6th, when Mars will actually begin the retrograde motion, the retrograde period itself, December 6th through February, that is going to be where we work through whatever has come up during this shadow period that began on October 5th. There is likely something where there is a power dynamic issue. Mars is opposite Pluto. We'll talk about that in a moment. Pluto specifically deals with power and has some level of requirement on our lives to pick up our power in one way or another, or renegotiate how we utilize our power, right? And so I've spoken a lot about Pluto and power on this channel. I even did like a whole special on it last year. If you'd like to find that, that's in the playlist for last year. But this thing with the Mars retrograde and how Mars is speaking to this specific new moon and also opposite Pluto, it's really going to highlight where we could be using our power better. And it's important to understand that power really in neutrality is just the ability to do, the capacity to act. That's it, right? But collectively, there's a lot of funkiness that we have about power. We want people to be empowered until we feel like their empowerment is somehow a win-lose for us, right? We say we believe in people having equal power and equal rights. But then, when they start to use their power in ways that we disapprove of because of our morals, we want to use our power to put our morals on their lives when, like, what is it going to change for us? Nothing. Right? So we have these really collectively a real unusual relationship with the ability to do, the capacity to act, especially in the world of astrology and healership and stuff like this, because we want to believe that it's all up to the stars, or it's all up to the angels, or it's all up to the universe. We don't want to pick up our power and actually do something or change something. We want the stars to do it for us. But if you've spent any time with me, you already know the stars are going to throw the party, but it's up to us whether or not we choose to attend. And so we're going to get some wake-up calls with this Mars retrograde. You probably already have, as Mars stepped into shadow on October 5th. Some wake-up calls around where we may be pretending like we don't have as much power as we do, or letting the shadow side of power control us, fear, shame, rage, really letting ourselves dip into those shadow emotions instead of just dealing with the thing head on. This Mars retrograde, because it's directly opposite Pluto, is going to force our hand on that. This is the last new moon before we get to the Mars retrograde. So definitely take your time to do the reflection that you can do. What showed up for me around taking action, my ability to do, my capacity to act, interpersonal power dynamics? What showed up for me in the last, 2 months, 60 days? Because it's these things where we're going to get an opportunity to become more empowered as we move through the Mars retrograde. Okay. So, and this new moon is definitely highlighting it in a way where we can't not see it. We can try. I mean, Neptune and Jupiter are going to try. They love to stay doing the most. Like, let's ignore that. Have more gummy bears. That's what they said to me last night. Have more gummy bears. You don't need to deal with that. Just eat more gummy bears and everything will be fine. Um, I did eat more gummy bears, just so you know. And I also still need to deal with the thing Mars is saying I need to deal with. So if you can maybe skip your version of gummy bears and go straight to dealing with the thing, you might have an easier time. I am certain my digestion is telling me we could have done without the gummy bears, girl, but it's all right. We gonna get it. We gonna get it together. We gonna push it on through. So here's where we have the signs who are going to feel this new moon the most. We've got Sun, Moon, Rising, and Stellium. If you happen to be a Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, Aries, or a Leo, this particular new moon is going to feel a bit potent for you in terms of the themes that I just laid out. Now, there are other energies unfolding at this lunation that are playing a very impactful role in the way we may be experiencing these energies. So let's get into it. This Mercury retrograde. I want to talk about this. Mercury is retrograde here at the 20th degree of Sagittarius. Thank you, friend. Uh, because Sagittarius is specifically about faith, hope, and optimism, but it is also about the truth, right? Sagittarius is like all the signs represent different qualities or energies or elements of life. Sagittarius is our sign that specifically deals with truth, and specific truth, like truth capital T. We have a lot of subjective truth, truth lowercase t, and the opposite sign, that's Gemini, right? Where two things that seem opposite could be true at the same time. That's Gemini truth. Some people also feel like, that could be like lying, right? Shadow side of Gemini. But in Sagittarius, we are dealing with irrefutable truth, right? Like if we all we all look and agree that what the lungs need to breathe is oxygen. That is a truth, capital T, right? So with this retrograde of Mercury, which is our consciousness, our mind, our communication, we will get a sense of truth coming out, truth being unable to be hidden at this Mercury retrograde. It will bubble to the surface internally. Likely there's going to be some undeniable truth for all of us over the course of this retrograde. It even for some people could be something that you've written down on paper. Sagittarius governs writing and publishing. Or you may discover something that is written on a piece of paper from someone else, right? You may even look back in some of your old journals and uncover a truth for yourself that you may have forgotten. But whatever this is, it does look like it's going to have a sense of revelation for you. You may have to, for collectively, we may find over the course of this that we have to review our written words or need to explain or account for our words at some point over the course of this retrograde as well. So the main thing I'd like to say, especially with Jupiter in opposition, and again, Jupiter, captain of the team, no limits. Actually, he's a star player. Neptune's the captain. But here's what I would say. Be very careful with what you say over the course of this Mercury retrograde, especially if you know you have a tendency to gossip or exaggerate or let your words get carried away and then have to answer for them later. Or if you know you're the kind of person who, finds that, language is the kind of thing where you are constantly like saying something you have to clean up later. The combination of planetary energies here, they lend themselves to you finding yourself in that kind of trouble if you already skew that way. Now, if you don't already skew that way, then this will be more of a period of review. But if you know you have this sort of issue with people, or where you kind of like, Brene Brown says this really well in one of her books. She talks about how often culturally we can use other people's situations and sharing or revealing confidences that they have revealed or things that they are going through as social currency and glue to connect us to people that aren't even that person. It's really important. This energy lends itself to that behavior. And so, especially as we're moving into the holidays, especially as you're going to be connecting with people who you may not normally connect with, and they may be going through, because we all are. Thank you, Pluto, changing signs, right? They may be going through a difficult, challenging, or transformational period of time. It would be really honoring if they have revealed something in confidence, to honor that confidence, and really leverage this energy to be someone who's trustworthy with being confided in, right? And share what's yours to share, not share other people's stuff. Thank you, Jupiter and Gemini. But if it's already happened and the cat's already out of the bag, you'll have the whole retrograde to clean it up. So, you know what to do, right? We have a trine as well from Chiron to this Mercury retrograde, and this is pretty exact. So, just keep that stuff in mind there. And if that has happened to you where somebody's like, if you already know, let me just put this another way, going back to the Jupiter Mercury energy. If you already know you got a friend whose loose lips sinks ships, like keep your stuff to yourself. If you already know you're dealing with somebody who can't be trusted with confidences, like you know what to do, right? That sort of thing. But okay, the Chiron Mercury thing is also part of the conversation. This is going to open up a beautiful opportunity for higher level wisdom to show itself with a lot of ease. This is going to make it easy to make thoughtful decisions at this time. It will be useful. Typically, Mercury retrograde wants to withhold language, but it will be useful if there are words that do need to be said or truth that does need to be spoken. There will be time to do that over the course of this Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is going to speak with Chiron. It's already spoken with Chiron, headed into the retrograde now, like in the reversal, and then at the end. So we've got a lot of opportunity here, okay, to have important conversations and necessary conversations. And Chiron in trine to Mercury will allow the conversations to be healing. It will allow the conversations to reveal and excavate some deeper, more personal truths. It will also allow us to reset our interpersonal dynamics and communication dynamics with people. So that's a really exciting energy. I do love to see that. Here's the rub. It's always got to be an opportunity to do the opposite with these energies. You can be in the light, you can be in the shadow. Take your pick. Here's the rub. Neptune in Pisces. Okay. That's square to this Mercury retrograde. Neptune is also retrograde. Neptune and Mercury in square would oftentimes rather wander around in illusion than deal with some truth. Escapism for the combination is like on a level 10, especially with Jupiter in the mix. This again is creating a loose T-square. As I mentioned earlier, the new moon also has a loose T-square as well with the same players. The answer is in Virgo, right? And so this calls for us to deal with, by intention, by choice, because the planetary energy isn't here pushing us in that way. So we have to choose for ourselves. Details, decision, discernment, prioritization, right? What is like everything can't be done all at once. We got to pick a sequence and an order for it, right? You can have it all, but all in the mouth at the same time doesn't always taste so great, right? So really allowing things to move stepwise instead of trying to like overwhelm yourself. Virgo moves in stepwise fashion. So it's some of the gifting of Virgo and the light side of Virgo that really has the opportunity to save us if we, in our luminary starlit bodies, choose to occupy Virgo in energy. But I'll tell you what, Jupiter and Neptune acting on this Mercury retrograde is really going to make you think gummy bears will solve all your problems. I'll tell you also from personal experience that gummy bears will not solve your problems. All right, so just trying to keep it light because you know this energy can get a little heavy, but yes, making Virgo related choices will go a long way at this particular new moon. Okay. Now we also see this Mercury has that opposition to Jupiter. This too can lend itself to a very spiritual, intuitive, and mental process. It can also, in the shadow, bring about a lot of over spiritualizing, overthinking, over rationalizing, getting lost in thoughts. And Neptune talking to both, none of the thoughts could be based in actual reality, right? On the one hand, this is great because we can use this to be decisive in Virgo energy and call things forth out of the ether and into the world of form. We can use Neptune for imagination. We can use Neptune for intuition, right? Neptune, Jupiter are very creative, especially when Mercury is involved on their own. But in the tension, they can go a different way. They can be very creative about finding ways to avoid what needs to be done. So, you know, you pick Virgo energy. Like, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to handle it? This energy is real, like I said, perfect for artists, creators, entrepreneurs, those who need creative insights as a baseline for generating their work. But then we can also use this energy to, like I said, we can avoid doing things that need to be done. So just be mindful with this and be decisive. You use the energy. Don't let this energy use you. Okay. Now let's talk about Mars, who is preparing to go retrograde. Here's Mars here at that 5th degree of Leo. We see Mars in a square here to Juno at the 9th degree of Scorpio in a fellow fixed sign. And this is going to allow some relationship stuff to come up. So Juno is the higher octave of Venus. I know a lot of astrologers will tell you Neptune is. I have looked and looked and looked and channeled and channeled and channeled. I have not been shown that that's the case. Juno, if you look at the mythology and what's written about Juno, as well as the mythology and what's written about Venus, where Venus is love and Venus is attraction, Juno is commitment, Juno is marriage. Where Venus is money, Juno is patronage with that money. Where Venus is beauty and beauty standards, we have Juno as the most beautiful goddess of Mount Olympus. So we see that, Juno really takes all of Venusian energy to that highest level. So here we have Juno inside of Scorpio at this moment, and we see Juno in conjunction with Haumea, the creation goddess. And what's interesting about that is the creation goddess, her job is about creating, her role and her function is about birthing. She really amplifies the part of the scorpionic process that's about the resurrection or the rebirth. Most of the time, so Scorpio will operate in triplicate, right? We get the death and the ending, we get the integration, growth, and learning, and then we get the rebirth. But with Haumea here and Juno here, what we're getting is rebirth of relationship type themes. Now we had Mars squaring the two of them. This is bringing an opportunity for us to start to deal with where our relationship related transformation, Scorpio is about transformation, where we need to take certain actions, that's the Martian piece, to honor ourselves, that's Mars and Leo, so that we can have the kind of relationships or rebirth the type of relationships we actually want. Very interesting energy. In the square, there can be more shadow than light initially. So there may be some sense of pride or ego that has been a challenge as these two are starting to come into formation. But it does look like it may, if it hasn't yet, reveal itself as Mars prepares to go retrograde on December 6th and will remain retrograde till February 23rd, right? This conversation with Juno and with Pluto for Mars is a kickoff to the Mars retrograde. The opposition to Pluto connotes some power struggles. I went into a deep dive about that both during Mars retrograde and the last lunation. I won't recap all of that here, so feel free to listen to either update if you want to know more. But this is asking us to get really clear again with the T square. T squares bring in a lot of tension. So we have occupation in 3 of 4 of the fixed signs. The fixed sign that doesn't have any energy in the early degrees is Taurus. And so this is asking us to lean into Taurian energy with our light bodies. This is about knowing what we value, aligning to our values, understanding our own self-worth and value in the world. This is also, to be clear, because the T-square may start with some shadow before you get access to the light or figure out your access point to the light. It's really about knowing the difference between staying locked into something and refusing to be uncomfortable because something is new. Like, I refuse to change. I don't want to do anything new. Hate new things. Just want everything to be the same because I hate the discomfort of being new. This is about knowing the difference between that framework and way of living and refusing to be uncomfortable and staying locked into something because you just like want to stay in the familiar. Let me see if I can give a good example here for you guys. So when we oftentimes in the world of growing, right? Like it's uncomfortable to grow. It doesn't always feel good to do a new thing. It's unfamiliar, it's clunky, it's not what we're graceful at. It's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, I could try something new, or I could just keep doing the thing that I've always done. This is a season in which doing the thing you've always done will prove to be problematic. There's a lot of demand for change in between now and 6 months from now, as we get into May, June. A lot of demand for change. And so refusing to grow is actually going to become more uncomfortable than facing the discomfort of change. I think that's the best way I can try to put it. And so, especially for those of you who are fixed signs, Taurus, Leos, Scorpios, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Stellium, this configuration for you in particular is going to invite you to step into a new way of wielding your power, specifically in relationships, because Juno's going to be in Scorpio for a retrograde for a nice, cool 11 months. She's not leaving Scorpio until November of next year. So where we have had power struggle issues, that's Scorpio. Trouble with change, growth, and transformation, that's Scorpio. Issues with letting things go, letting things die, so we can have the rebirth of something new. Where we've had problems with that. That's also Scorpio, right? This Mars retrograde is the kickoff to a longer period of time of us having a look at where can we use our power more effectively in relationship. And this Sagittarius new moon, where we are seeing Mars in communication with this new moon, also with Juno, it's all about that partnership, also with Pluto, is really going to, like, if we didn't know, like if we didn't see, the booger hanging out of our nose in relationship so far, this is going to show it to us in the mirror, like with spotlights. Like, hey, you may want to clean up your nose. Like, I'm seeing too much of the inside coming outside. Again, just trying to keep it light because I know this energy is a little heavy. But it is it's going to be a period of revelation where we get to see where, and here's how we bring in that Taurian component, where we've not honored ourselves, right? Where we've out overstayed our runway in a relationship, where we've outgrown it, and in order to value ourselves, we do have to let it end and move forward with our lives. Or where we have counted ourselves out is another way we play this game, where we feel like I'm not good at relationships, I can never have one. I saw whatever your self-talk version of that is, or nobody ever picks me. I'm always left out. Whatever your version of not taking action, being disempowered, Mars, Pluto in partnership, that's Juno. This is the beginning of a new moon of revelation. Well, this new moon is the beginning of a period of revelation so that you can cross the bridge and get to a new story that actually honors and values you in your love life. So, really exciting. I know that the tension of this for many, I've spoken to you in private conversations, it's been a lot. It's been a lot to see the truths that are coming up now. It's been a lot to know that you need to take a different action, in spite of how challenging it is. You're doing it. So I just really want to applaud everyone who's already seeing what needs to be done and taking that action in your life. And for those who are just like unclear, like, I don't even, what action? It may be playing out in your life in a different way. And we can always look at that in your chart, but there's likely power and other people involved. with Juno speaking to this Mars retrograde and Mars specifically speaking to Pluto, it's likely people involved in the circumstance and knowing how to handle this, where are the access points to choice. For some of you, we've even talked about this in session. There are things you could stand to learn. Like you need to find a teacher on X, Y, or Z. Because you didn't get into this place by yourself. You're not going to get out of it by yourself. You need coaching, mentorship, support, or education or skills. There are ways to move your life forward. None of us are stuck. Even the coastlines change shape over time, even mountains move. And so if you need some help with that, you can always book with me at kmoonastro.com. The link to do that is below this video. I'd be honored to help you find your next step through this Mars retrograde energy. So let's talk about it if you need to. But let's talk next about Venus. She's also in some active conversations at this lunation. There she is, our lower octave of Juno. Here's Venus. She is conjunct an energy called Ceres, and she's also conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. When Pluto and Ceres get together, they amplify one another's closure-focused energy. Generally speaking, Ceres is about growth and harvest and like bringing things in and harvesting things that are now ripe. Pluto's about that transformation and change, but they both have ending in common. So the two of them together speaking to Venus at this particular new moon does herald some level of closure related to Venusian things. And so we're talking about a finance related closure. It could be changing your look, like changing up your hair, closing out a season of a particular visual style, closure of a contract or agreement in particular inside of Capricorn. That could be the type of closure we've got going on, but there does seem to be some level of completion to a structure in a life as you knew it pertaining to money or pertaining to beauty or attraction. You could find yourself closing out a season where you're attracted to one type of person and really stepping into attraction to another type of person. And that's really, thank you, Uranus as well. Venus in this combination, Uranus brings elevation and change that moves quantum leaps in that sort of skipping steps fashion. And there's Venus speaking to Uranus, propelling us forward in these areas. Again, we're talking about money, we're talking about beauty, values, things we value. We're also talking about chemistry and attraction. We have a sextile to Neptune and Pisces here as well, which is just helping us do a lot of the letting go of attachments that may not have served us, especially if we've got any kind of love-based attachments, but they aren't really love. There's just like comfort. Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto working together to talk to Venus are allowing us the opportunity to let that go, where we've got attachment to avoiding, right? This is also helping us come out of that too. We do see a loose, well, it's not totally loose, but it's definitely there, a square to Chiron here in Aries for Venus. We can find ourselves overgiving with Chiron square Venus, especially in a holiday season. It's going to be important to be very mindful and wary of tendencies to do more than you need to do, coupled with expectation that others will do the same. It's one thing to do more than is needed because it feels good and it fills you up spiritually and you love that kind of thing. But it's another thing to do more than what's needed because we're hoping other people will notice and consider us as much as we are considering them. Everybody doesn't have your orientation to giving, right? Everybody doesn't have your focus, right? So if you're going to give congruently rather than expectantly is the counsel here, especially because Saturn is loosely, very loosely sextile this particular Venus. It's really talking about congruence and integrity and wholeness. That'll be very important. And if you have an expectation about what you do receive, if you need to give and take in exchange, with Venus and Capricorn, use it to say that. Put some boundaries and structure around it. That's what Capricorn's good for. Like, hey, let's make a plan and let's work together. I'll do X and you do Y, and we'll meet in the middle on things. How does that sound? With Venus and Capricorn, those who are clear about what they desire and value can get it, right? So it's an elevating energy here, but definitely something you want to stay in front of as we move through the holiday season to, not victimize yourself with your giving. Like nobody, that doesn't feel good to you. It doesn't feel good to other people either. So give yourself permission to get what you need in this energy. All of this is trying, like I said, to elevate us, step us into the next arena. Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, all talking to Venus, getting us to a higher octave around the core of Venusian things, which is value. What do we value in terms of who we are as a person in the world, but also in terms of our resources, our time, our money, our energy? How can we take a step up in relationship to our values with this energy and maybe do some things differently as we close out the year? I told y'all the New Year's resolution energy, like it's already upon us, and you really may already be feeling it. Like, well, you don't have to wait till January 1st. If you're like, yeah, I'm ready to like start changing the way I, do certain things now, start now. The energy is very supportive for it. We also see Jupiter in Gemini, which has been a fun energy since the spring of this year. Trine, Vesta, and Lilith there inside of Libra. And then we also see a loose trine here to Chariklo. Let me make that more specific because I included Pluto. Here's Chariklo. Okay, so yay, Grand Trine. What does it mean? This is really going to help us be clear about what we want, and I love to see it. Whenever there's clarity, and Jupiter here in Gemini retrograde has been really trying to figure this out. Do I want this? Do I want that? Do I want both? Do I want none? Right? Gemini gives us the benefit and the gift of being able to explore the options, try things on, see how it feels. In the light, Gemini allows us to be curious and expansive and to really see the benefit of all sides of a thing. And so there's really a lot of grace in here with Jupiter and Gemini, especially with Vesta and Lilith, from relationship sign and fairness and balance sign Libra. This is really giving us that opportunity to take a look. What's the truth of what I need to have and that I'm not willing to negotiate on, Lilith and then Vesta, respectively? The Chariklo energy brings an influence of whatever it is you say it is, you can have it. Chariklo is that energy of divine intervention where we get, angels, ancestors, guides, Holy Spirit, whoever you pray to, work with, right? On the other side, really supporting whatever Jupiter says he wants to do or not do at this period of time. There's a lot of support from, beings on the other side who are assisting with our journey. So I love to see this. The Jupiter in Gemini, like I said, gives us that opportunity for exploration, but there's also opportunity, as I mentioned, through the other energies to get more decisive so that the exploration doesn't turn into procrastination. Okay. Now we see a square for this Jupiter from Saturn and Neptune, which I've spoken about at length. Neptune is really working to dissolve Saturn's old structures. And as a trio at the tail end of this year, this is giving us an opportunity for releasing, visioning, and restructuring collectively and personally through these three. And I love it because it, like, where there has been like structures in your life where you just needed to fall, right? It can happen in this energy. Like, you're done with something, you're sick of something, you need it to go away, you need it to, like, this energy can wash it out, and help us let it go. Together, they invite us to imagine a new world for our lives and begin to explore it. And while gentle, this energy is demanding. It wants us to let go of what we thought we knew and how things used to be. It's just not going to be that way anymore, right? And for some of us, it's bittersweet. So I also want to acknowledge that some of us are at a bittersweet crossing into a new chapter. But this is also really important to use this energy, especially while Neptune and Jupiter are together, to start imagining and utilize this energy creatively and really start to explore it. And I would say it's gentle because it's not Uranus or Pluto, but it's still demanding because the combo of Neptune and Saturn, they don't play around. Saturn will cut off what's not working, and Neptune will wash it out to sea, so we cannot have it back anymore. We also see a sextile to Chiron in Aries here, right there, speaking to our lovely pal Jupiter here. So we can enjoy some applied wisdom here. We will be able to see what's shifting and begin to work with how it serves and how it heals us, but we'll also be able to utilize this energy and may really be called upon to be that guide for other people. So really great stuff at this new moon. I love to see it. If you need any support from the guidance of your chart, you can always book with me over at kmoonastro.com. There is one half-hour reading available. I think it's next Friday, after the American Thanksgiving holiday on December 6th. And then there are 1-hour readings available in the month of December, but those are moving very quickly. If you want to book, you don't want to wait, I strongly recommend doing it to guarantee your spot for December. However, if you want to wait for the sale, the 1-hour personal reading sale is this Friday. So it's 30% off. Private listers, you get priority access to my calendar on Thursday first. And then if you want to wait and book on Friday, you can, but that would be limiting what availability, you'd be limited to what availability is left. I'm so grateful to be able to do this with you guys, to share a gift with you at this holiday season. Definitely keep your eyes on the community tab for the other sales. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Drop a comment if you heard something that resonates. It's always fun to be here with you guys. Take great care and bye for now.